Hi everyone, my name is Ravi. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So as you all know, I've already published around 6 YouTube videos related to TRICENTIS Tosca test design concepts. Okay, so this is our lesson 7. I'm going to cover more concepts related to attributes and then instances and how can we define instances in different variations. Basically, by using 3 different methods, how can you define the attribute instances so that we can use them in test case design. Okay, so I would recommend you guys to watch my previous videos before you watching this session. So you can click on the link which is displaying on the screen to watch my previous videos. Please do subscribe to the channel, click on bell icon, you'll receive notifications whenever I publish more videos. And please don't forget to like and share the video. Stay tuned. This is our lesson 7 on TRICENTIS Tosca test design concepts. So in this lesson, I'm going to concentrate more on attributes, defining instances for the attributes. So in my previous videos, I've already taught you about the instances. Basically, how can you define instances at attribute level, and also how can you select these instances at test sheet level, right? So this is an extension to the same session. So I would recommend you guys to visit that particular video before you watch this session. So in this session, I'm going to teach you in detail about the test case specifications, and also I'm going to teach you how can you fill test sheet with the values to be used in physical test cases. And also you learn how to fill all empty values of a particular row. Basically, all the empty values of a particular row for an attribute. And also you are going to learn how can you fill all the empty values, but not all instances have the same values. Okay, so how can you fill those kind of values if values are not same throughout the row. And also I'm going to teach you how can you add value attributes instead of adding additional instances. Okay, so all these concepts are very important to fill your entire test sheet so that you can use those instances and value attributes to your physical test cases. It's very important. That means you can derive the test case combinations based on this entire test sheet that you have filled by using these concepts. So let me tell you the introduction part of this particular session, and let me also explain how different is this session compared to your previous session. Okay, so in this lesson you're gonna learn how to finish filling in your test sheet with the values to be used in your physical test cases. And in my previous session also I have taught you same, but what is difference that you can find in this lesson? So in the previous session we filled in values in process portion, correct? There are 4 different portions: administration, precondition, process, right? And then validations. So you can refer to my previous video. Okay, so we filled in values of process portion of test cases, right? We still need to, basically we filled some portion of the process related values, but we still need to fill in more physical values which can be used in deriving test case combinations, right? And how did we fill the values in my previous video? So previously we used the method of selecting appropriate instance values for an attribute. Okay, so what we did, we filled a test sheet by selecting instances, means appropriate instances for an attribute, correct? But this is a very tedious job because I'm selecting instance for every attribute throughout the test sheet, so which is a tedious job as we are adding each value manually one by one. Okay, so there are ways to help speed up this particular process. So we have total 3 different ways where you can speed up the filling of the values in the test sheet so that you can use those values in deriving test case combinations. What is our first method? We have an option to fill empty values of a particular row automatically. And the second method is you can basically fill empty values, but not all instances of a test case have the same value. That means my entire row I don't want to fill with the same values, but I want to fill with different values. So there is a method in Tosca. And also I want to add any new instances, right? But this time I want to have a new way of adding values by using value attributes instead of instances. Okay, I'm gonna walk you through the Tosca application, explaining how can you achieve all these 3 different methods for filling the test sheet values that can be used for test case combinations. Okay, I'm going to teach you some theoretical part and then I'm going to jump onto the system and show you how can we perform all these activities. Very important concepts. So let me explain in detail what is our first method. So our first method of filling values, we have an option to fill all empty values of a particular row automatically. That means I have an attribute and then I would like to fill the values for this particular attribute throughout the row immediately without wasting the time. So there is an automatic method where you can fill in all these values. So how? You have to select fill empty values option available in test case design module from the top ribbon, and then you have to select option called specific, and you can define the specific value that you want to enter in an entire row. Okay, and also you can basically select fill empty value option from context menu. That means when you click on a folder, right click on a folder, then you will get a context menu. From there you can select an option called specific and you can define the specific value that you want for entire row. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the application, then you will understand very well. What is our second method of filling values? So fill empty values, but not all instances of test cases should have the same value for any given row. That means I have a requirement, okay, where I would like to derive a test case combination for an attribute called credit card, right? But where I might derive 10 different scenarios for this credit card called attribute called credit card. So all these 10 different combinations, I don't want to insert the same instance value. I would like to specify different instances. So then you will be using this second method. So user, how you can perform this? User will filter for specific instances of test cases so that we can fill empty values only for those filtered instances. That means you can filter the instances based on the property of the instance, whether it is inbound or it is probably what I can say boundary, valid, invalid. So all these kind of instances you can filter based on these properties, and then you can enter the values. Filter instances based on straight through. That means, as I told you, you can filter the instances. You want to enter a values, some specific values for straight through instances. Then you can filter straight through instances. Or if you want to filter instances related to valid values, then you can filter instances based on the valid value, and then you can enter a different value. Or you can filter the instances by using boundary property or inner property, and then you can define different values. So this way, for entire row, you need not to fill this entire row with same values, but instead you are separating or you are filtering the instances based on your requirement and providing the values. Okay, what is our third method of filling values? So it's a new way of adding values about adding additional instances to the test sheet. That means let's assume you want to add some additional instances. Instead of selecting existing instances throughout the test sheet, you want to add additional instances. So in my previous session, we have defined a specific instances and then we selected, right? Instead of that, you have another method where you can define the additional instances. So they are not a separate Tosca objects. See, earlier I have taught you about creating instances, right? Those are actually Tosca objects. But here we are not gonna use those separate Tosca object, but rather they are simply attribute about instances or sub attributes defined. That means these instance values are your attributes or sub attributes of an attribute. Okay, so I'm going to show you, I mean, by basically when you are hearing this theoretical session, you might be having little confusion, but I'm going to basically explain you during practical session. Okay, rather than adding instances and selecting them, as I told you in my previous video, rather than adding instances, selecting the values, what we are going to do, we will enter the values themselves in cells of value attribute row on the test sheet. Okay, important notice, so they must be, that means whatever the value attribute you are defining as an attribute, right? So whatever the values, instance values, you are directly defining at attribute level only, right? So you must be entered in at a lower level of which the values can be combined. Okay, so if you see on the diagram, so username and password, right? Those two are the attributes, and I am defining the values exactly in the cell directly as a value instead of as an instance. Okay, so I'm going to tell you while basically walk you through the Tosca application. Okay, so let's jump onto the system and let me explain all these concepts very clearly with an example so that you can understand very well on these concepts. Okay.
So let me walk you through the Tosca tool so that I can show you practically how can we implement the concepts whatever I told you to fill the values throughout the test sheets. So there are three important methods that I have explained you, right? So that I'm going to show you by using tool. So if you see in my previous session, I have told you about a manual, basically linear expansion, lower level and test sheet level values, right? So I want to copy the same folder, okay, and then I would like to paste that folder here, okay, and then let me rename this as session 7 values. Okay, so session 7 values, and then let's focus on test sheet. So under test sheet, let me first concentrate on administration. Okay, under administration, I would like to fill the values for test designer. So if you remember, my first method of filling values is by using fill empty values on top ribbon. Okay, if you see here, this is your option, fill empty values on top ribbon. So before I proceed, so earlier in my previous sessions, right, what we did, we have actually created instances, and then we have picked up instances for every combination. So these instances we have picked up for every combination, but now we are going to fill up the values by using different methods, as I explained you. So first one, just focus on test designer and then select fill empty values and then select specific. Okay, once you click on specific, here it will show you what values do you would like to fill in, because in my previous session I have already defined instances for these, for type of test designer. I have defined instances as Max methodology, Steven design, right? So let me just select Max methodology and click on OK. So as soon as I click on OK, if you see here, all the values have been filled throughout the row automatically with the value that I have selected. So I need not to select this value for every column, right? In the same way, contact person, just place on contact person, and this time let me use second method. So right click, and then here you have fill empty values and then select specific, and I would like to fill the values with Peter business. Okay, so done. So I have selected Peter business for contact person administrative attribute. So now let me fill up test stage values. So test stage values, I don't want to select test stage values, all same test stage values for every attribute combination, but instead I would like to use another method. So if you click on column chooser, and if you see, I have already enabled the filter, right, this filter. So if you want to enable filter, this column, filter column, so you just need to go to your right click and then select column chooser. You will have that filter here, so you can just double click on that so that that filter will be appearing here. Okay, so by using filter, I would like to select the values or instance values from filter. How? Let me first do one thing. First, I would like to fill the values for my straight through combination. For that, expand this filter and then just mention. So basically remove all these and just select physical, which is my straight through combination, right? So for this straight through combination, straight through is a smoke related a combination. So that's why I would like to select it as smoke. So now let me again go to filter, and this time I would like to filter based on inner boundary, inner values, and also I would like to select based on outer values, inner values, not outer values, inner values, based on the inner values. Okay, so that means now here these boundary values, whatever the inner and the boundary values, I would like to consider them as regression. All the inner values, I would like to consider these combinations as regression values. Okay, test stage, and then I would like to filter this time with the boundary values. Okay, uncheck all those, just select boundaries, so you will get two combinations. So these boundary combinations are pertaining to one-time execution. Okay, so now let me clear the filter. Means I would like to select all. That's it. So that means in my second method I have used a filter criteria so that I can select values throughout the row but not the same values. So I can use the filter criteria. Based on the filter criteria I can select the values. Okay, hope you understand. So now let's go to precondition. Okay, expand this, go to precondition. Under precondition I would like to expand type of user. Okay, precondition, customer and type of user. So under type of user I would like to create two sub attributes. One is username and the second one is password. Okay, so now this time I would like to, so if you remember earlier what we did, for every attribute we used to define instances, correct? So now instead of defining instances, as I told you during my theoretical class at the beginning of the class, instead of defining instances I can define the instances at lower level. So this is my lower level, correct? This is one of username, password, and I can provide the values, instant values directly in the cell itself. Okay, so let me create my value email @ company.com. That is my username. And then what is my password? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So this is my password. So that means I'm using attribute value attribute. This is called value attribute. Okay, so instead of creating instances I'm defining instance as an sub attribute at lower level, and then I'm directly defining the values in the cell itself. Okay, so that is my third method. And then let's go to process attributes now. Okay, under process attributes, if you go to order products, right, under order products let's concentrate on products. So if you see the product, right, under product, first let me fill the values for digital. So I want to type this directly as digital instance value, and then I would like to type this as the article as third album, and then quantity as 1. Okay, and now I would like to use a filter now again. Okay, so to fill the other columns I would like to use the filter. How? First go to filter and then uncheck this digital, and now let's fill in these values. Okay, how? By using right click on this product type, right, and then fill empty values specific, and here let me select physical. Basically I am typing the value, so specific value I would like to fill in for product type, right? I selected this as physical, so all the entire row has been populated with physical. In the same way article, and this one I would like to fill this again. Let me use this here, specific. Here I would like to, article is blue jeans. Done. Now quantity. So this one I would like to enter as 170, 51, 50. So instead of entering like this, of course you can use the filter, but here it doesn't make sense because I have only one row to fill. So I need not to use filter criteria. So that's the reason I'm just entering manually. Okay. So these are all called attribute values. Okay. Instead of defining instances, I'm directly, instead of defining instances and their values, I'm directly providing instant values at lower level of the sub attributes, right? And then let's go to expiration date. So where if you go to checkout, under checkout, payment method, under payment method, credit card, under credit card, you have expiration date. Under expiration date, I would like to add two attributes. One is month and the second one is year. So now here I would like to use my, if you see my YouTube videos on lesson automation specialist level 1, right? I have explained you all these expressions. Basically these are all date expressions. Okay, so I'm just entering the month as one expression. Okay, let me explain you. Okay, so if you, basically you can just visit my previous videos so that you can understand what are these date expressions. Okay, so this expression is basically creates a random month format, and this one creates a random date format with 2 years plus, means currently 2021, then it is going to generate 2023. Okay, so once you complete filling all these, right, you will be continuing filling all the values with the same technique throughout the sheet. Okay, throughout this all test sheet and attributes. Okay, and then you will be arriving to this entire test sheet filled values. Okay, you make sure that you will be filling this entire test sheet with all the values by using the techniques that I have explained you in the session. Hope you all understand the concept, theoretical concept as well as the practical concept. If you have any questions, please provide your comments in the comment box. I'll be answering your questions.
Hope you all understand the concepts of filling the values in test sheet with different methods, 3 different methods. So this is gonna basically make you, so it is gonna reduce our efforts in filling the values. It's gonna speed up your process of filling values in test sheet so that you can use all these fill in test sheet for deriving test case combinations. Please do subscribe to the channel, click on bell icon, you'll receive notifications whenever I publish more videos on Tosca concepts. And please don't forget to like and share the video. Thank you.